All right, folks, buckle up. We're diving into some seriously fascinating territory today. We're exploring excerpts from The Raw Contact, a book that claims to document conversations with, get this, an extraterrestrial being named Ra.
It's definitely a bold claim, and as always, we approach these things with a healthy dose of skepticism. But the concepts in this book, even if we just think of them as thought experiments, they really touch on some big ideas about consciousness, cosmology, and the nature of reality itself.
You got that right. And what's really cool is how the book came about. It's actually the result of a super meticulous re-listening project. A dedicated team spent, are you ready for this, 8 years. 8 years listening to and transcribing the original recordings from way back in the 1980s.
8 years is a long time. It definitely suggests a commitment to accuracy. At the very least, it adds another layer of intrigue to this whole thing.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of it. Who or what is this Ra, and what are they trying to tell us?
Well, according to the book, Ra introduces themselves as a social memory complex from Venus. They're basically claiming to be a collective consciousness, representing millions of years of accumulated knowledge and experience.
Hold on, a collective consciousness from Venus. That's a lot to process. What are the implications of an entity that advanced if we even entertain the possibility?
It raises some pretty wild questions about consciousness and the potential for evolution way beyond anything we can currently grasp. Imagine the perspective of a being millions of years ahead of us.
It's mind-boggling, to say the least. And speaking of things that are hard to wrap our heads around, Ra claims to have had a hand in building the pyramids on Earth.
Yeah, but not in the way you might think. They're not saying they physically lifted those massive stones. Ross suggests they projected thought forms from their collective consciousness.
Wait, thought forms manipulating matter. That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It definitely challenges our conventional understanding of physics. But this idea of thought forms, the idea that focused mental energy can influence the physical world, it actually has parallels in various esoteric traditions.
It makes you wonder about the true power of the mind, doesn't it? And here's another one that'll blow your mind. Ra talks about a soul transfer event from a destroyed planet called Maldek to Earth, supposedly happening 75,000 years ago.
That's a time frame that makes our recorded history look like a blink of an eye. It really puts into perspective how limited our current understanding of the past might be.
It's like we're just catching a glimpse of this massive, ancient, cosmic play.
Exactly. And the stage for this cosmic play gets even bigger when Ra brings in the concept of two opposing forces: the Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite creator, and cue the dramatic music, the Orion Group.
Okay, now we're talking. Tell me more about these cosmic forces.
The Confederation, as Ra describes them, seem to be a force for good, promoting unity and spiritual growth across the galaxy. They act in service to others, helping those who are trying to evolve towards higher levels of consciousness.
And the Orion Group, they sound a little more, shall we say, shady.
The Orion Group, according to Ra, are all about control and manipulation. They represent service to self, using fear and deception to gain power.
So it's like a cosmic battle between good and evil playing out on a galactic scale.
It's tempting to frame it that way, but Ra's perspective is more nuanced. They suggest that both the Confederation and the Orion Group ultimately serve the Creator, even if their methods are totally different.
So it's not as simple as black and white.
Not at all. Ra emphasizes that everything is ultimately part of the same unified reality, even the things we might see as negative or harmful.
That's a really interesting perspective. It challenges us to look beyond our usual judgments and consider the possibility of a bigger picture.
Exactly. And speaking of expanding our perspective, Ra introduces the concept of wanderers.
Wanderers? What are those?
Ra's suggesting that some people on Earth are actually souls from other densities, other levels of reality, who chose to be born here to help the planet evolve.
Whoa, so there could be people walking among us who are literally from other dimensions. That's wild. What's their purpose here?
Ra says wanderers often feel this deep sense of longing, a feeling of not belonging, like they're remembering a higher home. They're drawn to helping others, to helping people awaken to their true nature.
That's a profound concept. It makes you wonder if you might run into a wanderer in your daily life. And it all circles back to the core of Ra's teachings, the law of one.
The law of one is the fundamental principle behind everything Ra talks about. It emphasizes the interconnectedness of all things, the idea that we're all part of the same unified reality, no matter how different we seem.
So it's not just some abstract cosmic idea. It actually has implications for how we live our lives.
Absolutely. Ross suggests that recognizing this interconnectedness can help us make more compassionate choices, knowing that our actions have a ripple effect on everything.
That's a powerful thought. It makes you feel more responsible for your actions, knowing that they affect not just you, but the whole web of existence.
Right, and this interconnectedness is explored even further in Rez's description of the veil.
The veil, what's that all about?
Rez describes the veil as this kind of metaphysical barrier that separates our conscious awareness from our unconscious mind. It's present in third density, the level of reality we're currently in.
So it's like a filter that limits how we perceive reality.
Exactly. The veil creates a system of catalyst, a set of challenges and experiences that help us learn and grow. By facing these challenges and making choices in this veiled state, we evolve spiritually.
So it's not about avoiding difficult experiences, but about using them as opportunities for growth.
Precisely. The choices we make within this veiled reality shape not only our individual destinies, but also the collective destiny of humanity, and potentially even the universe itself.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility. But it's also incredibly empowering to know that we have that much agency.
Absolutely. It really highlights the importance of being self-aware and making conscious choices.
This is all so fascinating. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what Ra has to offer.
I know, right? There's so much more to explore. And we're back. We've just dipped our toes into the ocean of the raw contact.
And I'm ready to swim deeper. Right before we took a break, we were talking about the veil and how it shapes our experience here in third density.
Yeah, exactly. And to understand how we navigate this reality behind the veil, Ra introduces this idea of 7 densities of existence. Think of it like a cosmic ladder of consciousness, each density representing a different level of awareness and understanding.
So it's not just us evolving as individuals, but consciousness itself is evolving on a grander scale.
That's the idea. Ra goes into a lot of detail about these densities, outlining the lessons and challenges associated with each stage of evolution. It's a fascinating framework, though it can get a bit complex for understanding reality and the purpose of existence.
So where do we humans fit on this cosmic ladder?
Well, according to Ra, we're currently in third density, the stage marked by the veil, and this choice between service to self and service to others. It's like a pivotal point in our evolution.
So the choices we make in this density determine where we go next on that ladder.
That's what Ra suggests. The choices we make, the vibrations we cultivate, they determine the direction of our journey, potentially for lifetimes to come.
It's like some cosmic sorting system, guiding us towards experiences that fit our level of development.
I like that analogy. And this actually brings us to another cool aspect of Ra's teachings, the archetypes and the tarot.
Oh yeah, the tarot. Before we took that break, we were talking about the veil and how it impacts our perception. How do these archetypes and the tarot fit in with all of this?
Ra suggests that the tarot, at least in its original form, was actually designed as a tool to understand the archetypal mind, those fundamental patterns of consciousness. They emphasize that tarot isn't about fortune-telling, it's about self-discovery.
So the tarot's more like a psychological roadmap than a crystal ball.
Exactly. By exploring these archetypes, we gain insights into our motivations, our patterns, our potential. It's a tool for introspection and self-understanding.
That's a really interesting perspective. I've always been kind of intrigued by the tarot, but I never thought of it that way before.
It's a perspective that can deepen our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. And something to keep in mind about Ra's perspective, they actually say the original Egyptian tarot didn't include any astrological symbols. Those were added later by other cultures.
So the core meaning of those archetypes, they transcend any specific cultural interpretation.
That's what Ra suggests. The archetypes represent these universal patterns of consciousness that exist across time and space.
Okay, I'm ready to delve into these archetypes. Where should we start?
Well, Ra describes each archetype as representing a fundamental aspect of consciousness, a blueprint for understanding the human experience. But they don't give a fixed interpretation for each card.
So it's more about personal interpretation, how the archetype resonates with our individual journey.
You got it. The tarot, as Ra presents it, is a tool for introspection, not a set of rigid rules or predictions. They start with the magician, which represents the conscious mind, the part of us that actively interacts with the world.
The magician, the creator, the manifester, willpower, intention, bringing our desires into reality.
Yes. And then we have the high priestess, representing the unconscious mind, intuition, dreams, hidden knowledge.
Ah, the high priestess, the keeper of secrets, the intuitive guide, wisdom, mystery, connection to our deeper selves.
Exactly. Even in these first two archetypes, we see this interplay between the conscious and unconscious aspects of
A
ourselves.
balance between action and intuition.
Right. And this interplay continues as we go through the other archetypes. We have the Empress, feminine energy, creativity, nurturing; the Emperor, masculine energy, structure, order; the Hierophant, tradition, spiritual guidance, the search for meaning;
The lovers, representing choice, duality, the integration of opposites.
the Chariot, willpower, control; the journey of the self, strength, passion, courage, taming our primal instincts; the Hermit, introspection, solitude, search for inner wisdom;
The wheel of fortune, change, cycles, the ever-turning nature of reality, justice, balance, fairness, the consequences of our actions.
the Hanged Man, surrender, letting go, seeing things from a different perspective; death, transformation, endings, new beginnings; temperance, balance, harmony, the integration of our different selves;
The devil, temptation, shadow, the limitation that we create for ourselves. The tower, sudden change, upheaval, the breaking down of old structures.
the Star, hope, healing, the renewal of faith; the Moon, illusion, intuition, the hidden depths of the unconscious; the Sun, joy, vitality, the radiant expression of our true selves;
Judgment, representing awakening, accountability, integrating the lessons we've learned. And finally, the world, completion, wholeness, the integration of all aspects of our being.
It's quite a journey through the human experience, wouldn't you say?
It really is. Each card seems to represent a different stage or aspect of our journey, both individually and as a collective.
And remember, this is just one way to interpret the tarot. Ra encourages us to find our own personal meaning in these archetypes, to see how they reflect our own unique experiences and challenges.
This reminds me of something else Varad talked about, the importance of the law of one in the context of healing. They said true healing involves aligning our energy centers and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
It's a fascinating perspective. Healing isn't just about fixing physical ailments, but about restoring balance and harmony in the whole mind-body-spirit complex.
And this process of healing, it can be helped by different tools and techniques, including pyramid energy, crystals, even sound vibrations.
Ra goes into detail about the properties of pyramids, calling them energy amplifiers that can facilitate healing and spiritual growth. They even suggest that the shape itself can focus and direct energy in beneficial ways.
They also mention crystals as a powerful tools for focusing and directing energy, especially in healing.
And sound vibrations, as Ray explains, can also be used to harmonize and balance our energy centers. Certain sounds and tones, they suggest, can resonate with specific chakras, promoting healing and well-being.
It's like using sound as vibrational medicine, tuning our bodies and minds like instruments.
Exactly. And all these techniques, Ray emphasizes, are ultimately about aligning ourselves with the law of one, recognizing that interconnectedness and tapping into the universal life force energy that flows through us all.
It's about restoring harmony within ourselves and with the world around us.
Right. And this brings us back to the core of Ra's message: love and service as the guiding principles for spiritual evolution.
Ra suggests that by choosing the path of service to others, we align ourselves with the natural flow of the universe, promoting harmony and unity.
And this path ultimately leads to greater understanding, compassion, and spiritual growth.
So it's not just about our own individual enlightenment, but about contributing to the evolution of consciousness as a whole.
That's the point. And this brings us to Ra's perspective on the densities and those cycles of experience that souls move through. Remember that cosmic ladder we talked about?
Yeah, the 7 densities of existence.
Well, Ra suggests that right now we're in third density, a stage characterized by the veil, and that choice between service to self and service to others. Depending on our choices and the level of spiritual growth we achieve, we'll either graduate to fourth density, a realm of love and compassion, or we'll repeat third density until we're ready to move on.
So it's not a one-way street. We have the chance to learn and evolve through multiple cycles of experience.
That's what Ra's saying. They also mention this concept of harvesting, a process where souls are evaluated at the end of each density cycle and sent on the appropriate path for their continued evolution.
A cosmic sorting system, making sure each soul is placed in the best environment for their learning and growth.
Exactly. And this evolution keeps going through the densities, each stage offering new lessons, challenges, and opportunities for service. Ray even describes the possibility of becoming a wanderer, a soul choosing to incarnate in a lower density to help others with their spiritual evolution.
So those wanderers we were talking about earlier, they could be souls from higher densities who've chosen to come here and help us.
That's the suggestion.
Yeah.
They often feel a sense of longing, of not belonging in this world, like they're remembering a higher home, and they're often drawn to helping others, feeling a deep desire to help others awaken to their true nature.
It's like they're carrying a spark of light from a higher realm, showing others the path.
That's a beautiful way to put it, but it's not always an easy path. Remember the Orion group?
Yeah, the group focused on controlling and manipulating others.
Well, Ross suggests they often target those who are on the path of spiritual awakening, trying to disrupt their progress and pull them into their sphere of influence.
It's like a cosmic battle between light and darkness playing out on the stage of human consciousness. How do we navigate this? How do we know the difference between the influence of the Confederation and the Orion group?
That's where discernment and inner guidance are key. Ra emphasizes that we have free will, the power to choose our path at every moment.
So even with these cosmic forces, we're not just puppets. We have a say in our own evolution.
Exactly. Ra suggests that although we might be influenced by external forces, ultimately the choice is ours.
And this choice, between service to self and service to others, it's the defining moment of our experience in third density.
It's the crossroads where we decide the direction of our journey for lifetimes to come.
This is all so much to absorb. It's incredibly empowering to know we have this much agency in our own evolution.
It is empowering, but it also comes with responsibility, knowing that our choices have consequences not just for ourselves, but for the entire web of existence.
And that's a perfect place to pause for now.
Yeah.
Let's give you some time to think about all this before we move on to the final part of our deep dive.
Take some time to reflect on what we've discussed and see what resonates with you. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Man, there's so much to think about from our exploration of the raw contact so far.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to process. But I think now is a good time to shift gears a bit and talk about how we can actually use Ross' teachings in our everyday lives.
Totally. We've been diving deep into these cosmic forces, densities, archetypes. But how does it all connect to our day-to-day experiences?
Well, one of the most practical things Ra emphasizes is the power of thought. They're basically saying thoughts are things, that our thoughts have real power and can influence reality.
So it's not just about what we do, but what we think, too.
Exactly. Ra suggests that by focusing our thoughts on love, compassion, and unity, we can actually contribute to raising consciousness on a planetary level.
It's like each of us is a little drop in this vast ocean of consciousness. And by making our own drop purer, we contribute to the purity of the whole ocean.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it connects back to the law of one, that interconnectedness we've been talking about. Our thoughts, our actions, they have ripple effects that go way beyond our immediate circle.
So even small acts of kindness or just holding positive thoughts can have a real impact.
That's what Ra is suggesting. And they also talk about the importance of self-awareness, really looking at our thoughts and beliefs and making sure they're aligned with those highest principles of love and service.
It's about taking responsibility for our own mental and emotional state, recognizing that our inner world shapes our experiences in the outer world.
You got it. And that leads us to another practical application of Ra's teachings, this idea of service to others.
Yeah, we touched on that before, but I'd love to hear more about how we can actually put that into practice in our daily lives.
Well, Ra suggests the most important thing is to live the law of one in our everyday interactions. Treat every being with love, compassion, and respect.
That sounds simple enough, but honestly, I think it can be pretty challenging sometimes, especially when we encounter people with different views, or even people who might be acting in harmful ways.
Oh, absolutely. It's not always easy. But Ra reminds us that everybody's on their own unique journey. We can choose to respond with understanding and compassion, even when it's hard.
So it's about seeing that divine spark in everyone, no matter what they're doing or what they believe.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be about these grand gestures. Ra says even small acts of kindness can make a difference.
Like holding a door open for someone, listening to a friend who's going through a tough time, or just smiling at a stranger.
All great examples. Ra also talks about cultivating gratitude, appreciating all the beauty and abundance around us, even when things are difficult.
Focusing on what we have instead of what we don't.
Right, and practicing forgiveness, both for ourselves and others. We're all learning and growing. We're all bound to make mistakes.
It's about letting go of resentment and choosing compassion instead.
Exactly. And Roz also mentions the importance of meditation as a way to connect with our higher selves and tap into that inner wisdom.
Meditation seems to pop up in a lot of spiritual traditions. What does Ra say makes it so powerful?
They suggest that by quieting the mind and going inward, we can actually access the source of love and light that's within all of us. It's about connecting to that deeper part of ourselves, the part connected to universal consciousness.
So meditation isn't just about relaxing or de-stressing. It's about tapping into a deeper level of awareness, connecting to something bigger than ourselves.
You got it. And that connection to our inner light can help us live more authentically, make choices that align with our true purpose, and contribute to healing and transformation in the world.
It's all so profound and inspiring, but I gotta be honest, there's still a part of me that wonders, how do we know any of this is true? Can we really trust these alleged communications with an extraterrestrial being?
That's the big question, isn't it? Ultimately, like with any spiritual teachings, it comes down to your own discernment.
Ra even seems to acknowledge that. They tell us to question everything, not to take their words as absolute truth, but to use our own critical thinking.
Right. They're not here to give us all the answers or tell us what to believe. They're offering a perspective, something to think about and reflect on.
So it's not about blind faith, it's about taking what resonates and leaving the rest.
Exactly. And maybe that's the most important takeaway from the raw contact. It's not a strict doctrine or a set of rules to follow blindly.
It's more like a collection of concepts and perspectives that can spark our curiosity, challenge our assumptions, and inspire us to explore the mysteries of existence.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And ultimately, the real test of Ra's teachings isn't about intellectual understanding, it's about how they resonate in your heart.
If these teachings inspire you to act with more love, compassion, and understanding, maybe that's all the proof you need.
Well said. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the raw contact. It's been a fascinating journey through these mind-bending concepts and thought-provoking ideas.
It really has. If you're feeling intrigued by Rana's teachings, I definitely encourage you to check out the source material yourself. There's a lot to unpack, and everyone will find their own little gems of wisdom in those pages.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. The real journey is applying these concepts in your own life, seeing the world through the lens of the law of one, and making choices that align with your heart and your highest purpose.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep shining your light.